Arrow Season 4, Episode 10, Blood Debts. Now, coming off of our fall finale, I think this was a pretty interesting episode. I figured Felicity wasn't going to be the one that died. We still don't know who it is, but we do get to see Felicity at the end of this episode where she's inside of the car, and she's very upset, and she says, whatever Dark did is important enough for her to say, you have to kill him. So, of course, it leaves Felicity out. So that still leaves Diggle, Thea, Laurel, possibly Captain Lance. Now that I think about it, I hadn't considered this before until just now, but possibly Felicity's mom. And it could just be, the fact that obviously it's her mom and they'll be like his mother-in-law. That I could see it having that effect as well, because that doesn't just affect him. It's like that affects, his soon-to-be wife and stuff like that. So I guess we can kind of add her to the list as well. There's so many possibilities. It's really messed up. I still don't think it'll be his son. It still could be, but I don't know. It's 4 months now instead of the 6 months, so we still have 4 months to go. Which is exactly why I knew it wasn't going to be Felicity, because it was like, it's 6 months from now, so I knew it wasn't Felicity. But we still have all those possibilities, and it makes me wonder, like, it just brings it down, like, who is it going to end up being, and really, how is it going to happen? I don't know if it'll be Thea. I don't think it'll be Thea, either, because of just where her character is. As Speedy, I think she's a bit too important for them to kind of kill off the show because of who Speedy is, and even though, they've kind of messed around with that a lot anyway, so it's like they've already done, the Red Arrow and Arsenal as a name, and now they've gone backwards to Speedy. So, yeah, it's kind of hard to tell, but there's a lot that can go on with Thea and, Malcolm Merlin and all that extra stuff, so I don't think it'll end up being Thea, but there's still, the big question as to who in the world it's going to end up being, and I don't know, seeing Felicity there at the end does kind of say a lot, though, because I feel like it's not just like, oh, someone died, but at the same time, it's as simple as that. I mean, these are people that they've known for years now. It could be as simple as somebody died, and it doesn't matter how they died or what. But I'm looking forward to that happening. I mean, I know we're still a couple of months away from it. We might actually be 4 months away from that actually happening. But I don't know. I'm looking forward to whatever the answer is going to end up being. It's going to suck. Whoever it is, it's got to be one of the main characters. And if it's not, then it would have to be his son. If it's not a main character, it would have to be his son, I would assume. So we'll see what happens, and that would be insane if they did that. That'd be real messed up, but I don't know, it could happen. But the rest of this episode, outside of that, was literally just the end, so bring all the speculations back. But the meat of the episode, I think, was really good too. Like the start of it, we get Oliver just punching the crap out of people. It's just like, where's Dark? Punch somebody. I was honestly wondering, I was like, is this the same person? Because it seemed like he was just constantly on rooftops punching people in the face. I was like, I wonder if this is the same person. And then he kicked a guy into a fuse box, and I was like, oh, that's not the same guy. Because, I mean, I'm sure that guy didn't actually die, but when he kicked him into it, I was like, oh, he's dead. That guy, he killed that guy. But it was an interesting opening. He was just pissed and just punching people and kicking people. And then the one guy, I actually saw him jump off the roof and kill himself. So he's not exactly getting anywhere with leads or getting any leads, whatsoever. And he's just angry and scared and sad and all this other stuff that's going on. And it made for an interesting episode. Like, we got to see Oliver get pushed to a very extreme limit. And I like that idea because more than anything, I think this episode, like the present story episode, kind of parallels what happens in the future, because he was really angry in this episode because of what happened with Felicity. We got to see what he would do when he was really worried about someone he cared about dying. So he's going out, he's just losing his mind. He's killing, or well, not killing people, but he's beating people up. He was going to torture Anarchy to get information on them. Then, when Laurel decides that he's going a bit too far and she gets Anarchy arrested, he frees Anarchy so that Dark can actually get killed, but it ends up being his wife and daughter, so he saves them. And that says a lot. I mean, he did a lot to make sure that Damien Dark got killed in this episode, and it didn't work. And, they have their confrontation at the end, and Damien Darhk lets him go, and we kind of get that glimpse at the end when he gets in the limo and everything, and he mentions he's not okay. So there's just a lot going on there, and we've seen, based on this episode, we see what he's gonna do the next time, or there's a lot of time in between, so that might change. He might not just go right back to what he was doing in this episode, just punching everyone he can. But considering he actually lost someone, we might see him go even further than he did in this episode, which personally I do think was pretty far. I think personally the anarchy thing, I thought he was okay. It was like, I know he's torturing the guy technically, but it's like, I don't know, like especially considering it's anarchy. I wasn't exactly worried about the guy, but I mean, I understood where Thea and Laurel were coming from for sure, but I don't know what to really expect. I mean, we have so much time to wait and see, so once again, there's still so many things in between that are going to happen leading up to whoever, dies. But I'm really looking forward to it. I think, what they showed us was a pretty extreme example of what he's going to end up doing, or how he's mentally at least going to be thinking. So it's going to be pretty crazy. I enjoyed the action of this episode for sure. We got to see a lot of cool stuff from Anarchy. He took down all the ghosts in the beginning of the episode. He destroys. He basically killed his foster parents, and then he goes back to their place, or he goes to some house. I assumed it was theirs, and he sets up the guns and everything. And he's just a crazy character. I really like his character, honestly. Like, I don't know where he got those martial arts skills, but no one ever uses the 3-part staff nunchaku thing. So I love seeing that, because he was like flipping it and spinning it and jumping. I was like, everyone on Earth should use these, because no one, I've seen that happen one time ever in a martial arts movie where anyone used that weapon. So seeing him do that again, I was like, that's just really freaking amazing, because nobody does it. So that was really cool. He's got some really good skills. But it was fun watching that character, and him and Thea having this interesting little storyline in it, where he's like, he kind of wants her to lose. It's very Joker-like, and that's Joker and Anarchy are actually very similar characters, because they do, a lot like Joker. Anarchy really just does stuff for Anarchy. His name is that for a reason. They just do stuff to make things really crazy, and he wants people to, go nuts. And he wanted Thea to go really far in this episode again, but she had control over herself, and he was disappointed in that, which he says, which I thought was kind of cool. And he actually escaped, so we'll get to see him come back. I don't think it'll even be this season. I think they'll kind of save Anarchy for the next season, and we'll kind of, see what happens with that. But I really enjoyed him in this episode, just like the last time. My favorite part was him going up against Oliver and Thea at the end when he was using the staff, because he's just spinning it and catching it and everything, and it was just perfect. And like I said, that's just a weapon you never get to see used. So I loved it. I was like, I just love seeing people use that. So he was definitely a fun character. Clearly he's a very powerful character in a very interesting way. If he had more money, I think he'd be way more dangerous, because he'd be able to do a lot crazier things. But it was really interesting. It was just crazy to watch him. I really enjoyed it. Fortunately, Felicity's fine. We don't really know if she's paralyzed, because at the end, when she was in the limo, I was like, okay, she could easily have been paralyzed, and they just, moved her from her chair to inside of the limo. So it's still hard to tell, and she didn't move or anything like that, so I don't know if she's actually paralyzed. But when they did that, the first thing I thought of was they're making her into the Oracle from Batman. And I think the reason I thought that is because there's, everyone always has a lot of similarities between Arrow and Batman, because Arrow involves with the League of Assassins, which technically is a DC-wide, thing, but it's always kind of centered on Batman and just some other stuff that they've done. So it was kind of interesting. It was like, she might be paralyzed forever. I was like, that's just like the Oracle, who was also shot. It wasn't, in a hell of gunfire. It was just the Joker just shot her. But, spoiler if you didn't know that. But, that's kind of how that happened. So it was very interesting. And it was like, they're kind of making her like the Oracle a little bit. But it was definitely a fun episode. I really enjoyed it. The flashbacks finally seem like they're kind of getting interesting, to be totally honest. Um, Constantine's sigil, or the little tattoo that he put on Oliver, it finally starts to activate. He gets saved from that. He's still keeping the secret from the woman that he killed her brother. It'll come up. I'm sure it'll be fine. Like, she'll be super pissed off, and then it'll be like, sorry, but we went through so much, whatever, and then they're fine about it. But I'm looking forward to where they're gonna go now that the leader, of this organization has figured out exactly who he needs. I want to see what they're gonna do. I want to see what Oliver learned on this island, because so far, and I've mentioned this before, flashbacks for this season have kind of sucked. Like, they've been fairly boring to me, and they definitely aren't as cool as they used to be, even just story wise, where it's like, oh, this thing happened and it perfectly parallels this thing in the present timeline. They've completely stopped that in this episode. The only time they did that, and I mentioned this before, was with Constantine, and really it was because Constantine was in both the present and the past, and that was technically the only reason um, that it paralleled. But they just haven't been doing it. It's feeling fairly slow paced, to be totally honest, and it's because they're kind of keeping the same formula that they have with the other flashbacks, but it's like there's so much happening that we don't get to see enough in the flashbacks this season, because every single time it's like it feels like a minor step. Like, this felt like a fairly big step, because it's like finally the guy realizes that Oliver has like this magical tattoo on him. So that was a pretty big deal. It's like, okay, that I enjoyed, but a lot of the other stuff, like him getting busted in the last episode, also enjoyed that, because that was something I'd been waiting for. And everything else was kind of like minor stuff. It was like, oh, I busted you. No, he didn't. And then he got out of it, and that was pretty much how it kept going. And I was like, this is like really so-so to me. But now that he's been captured, they know that he has like the magical tattoo on him. I'm looking forward to the flashbacks getting a lot better and seeing exactly what's going on with the island. So hopefully that starts to happen very soon. And I feel like it's about to, finally, that it's going to really pick up the pace. Because we only get our little chunks. I think the flashbacks only take up maybe, they might take up like 10 minutes, possibly, or almost 10 minutes or something like that out of the entire episode. But ultimately, that's like really nothing compared to the entire story of the episode. So we get these little snippets of flashback, and it's like, by the end of the episode, it's like, man, we barely got anything out of that. So I'm hoping it really picks up the pace from now on, now that he's been captured and they know the secrets. Kind of just hidden on him, and they have the maps and everything. So looking forward to that. But I did really enjoy this episode. Action was good. The potential, for whoever dies in the future, really built on that with the Felicity thing. Like, her being so angry is really what says a lot. Like, Oliver saying, like, I have to kill this guy, that's one thing. But Felicity saying that is leagues beyond Oliver saying it. Because he used to kill people, so it's like, he lost someone, so he's really hurt, and he goes back to that. Understandable. But Felicity, Felicity for the first time going to something like that says a lot. And then we see that in this episode where when she's in the bed, she asks him, like, are you going off the rails and stuff like that. And she talks to him like, what's the point of doing this if you end up losing yourself again, and things like that. So hearing that, and then, we get the end of the episode where she's like, you gotta kill him. That's a huge deal. So I really love that they did that, because it's Felicity saying that. If Diggle said it, it would kind of be the same as Oliver saying it, where it's like they're both really hurt. We also kind of saw it in this episode. He was beating up his brother and stuff, which is an interesting part of this episode, where he does. By the end, they have a little bit of a bond. They're playing cards and stuff. He even like cheats and looks over and stuff like that. I was like, okay, that's kind of cool. They're at least starting to work on their relationship, and he's not just angry 100%. So they're starting to work on that, and I'm kind of curious to see where that goes. What his brother's character is going to end up being once they actually end up bonding from now on. So I'm looking forward to that as well. But I just really loved the way they did the ending. I think it kind of played on the real, crucial aspect of who was killed. So really looking forward to it. Definitely want to know what you guys thought about this episode, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts. And I don't want to bring it up again, but I feel like I have to. Like, I knew it wasn't Felicity. That was honestly never a question. But I feel like with Felicity saying what she said, it does say a lot about who may or may not have died. So I want to know, based on that little ending, if it changed for you. I want to know your speculations on who you believe died. Like I said, personally, I hadn't thought about it until this episode, but I think we can definitely add her mom to the list because that's the type of thing that I think would affect her. But at the same time, considering she asked him, he asked her first if she was okay, but he was like, no, I'm not okay. I don't think he'd have that serious of a reaction if it was Felicity's mom. Despite how close they are, I don't think he'd be that distraught by it, to be honest. So it still kind of leads down the path of maybe it could be Diggle, Laurel, or Thea. Once again, Laurel, I'm pretty sure is safe. The whole Black Canary deal with the comics and all that stuff. So still pretty sure she's safe. Thea and Diggle, Thea once again I think is fairly safe, and so it kind of leaves Diggle, but it still could be Lance as well. And so we still obviously just all speculation, still unsure. Technically, still could be his son, still could be the mother of his child. So just a lot of possibilities, to be totally honest. But definitely want to know yours, so please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.